The fork trembled slightly in my hand as my cousin's voice sliced through the holiday chatter. "It's honestly tragic when people just waste their potential," Natalie announced, her eyes sliding toward me with practiced disdain. Maybe Claire should ask Mr. Richards about openings in the mailroom. At least then, she'd be at a real company. Mr. Richards, her boss and the guest of honor that evening, gave a short laugh, swirling his wine with a smirk. Their shared amusement seemed to echo louder than any other sound in the dining room, the kind that makes your chest tighten and your cheeks burn. Across the table, I caught my parents exchanging that familiar glance, the same one I'd seen for years, the one that said I'd never lived up to their expectations. My phone vibrated silently in my lap, the fifth urgent email from the board about tomorrow's acquisition meeting. The very one that could make or break Richards International. The very one that only required my signature. My name is Claire, I'm 31, and this is the story of how I stopped letting my family define me by their perception of failure. For years, I had carefully kept my real life hidden. To them, I was a struggling adjunct professor at a small community college, scraping by in a shabby apartment with a second-hand car. But in reality, I was the founder and CEO of Horizon Capital, a private equity powerhouse that had quietly acquired Richards International through a subsidiary nearly a year ago. Tomorrow's board meeting would finalize everything. Yet here I was, treated like the family embarrassment once again. "The attic's ready for you, Claire," my mother chimed in suddenly, breaking my thoughts. "We put a small heater up there since Caroline needs the guest room. You know, she's expecting such an exciting time." The table went quiet for a beat, relatives pretending not to listen but straining for every detail. This was their holiday tradition, watching me get pushed aside. "The attic?" I asked evenly, my voice calm despite the humiliation clawing at me. "Don't be dramatic," Mom replied, passing the cranberry sauce as though she hadn't just exiled me to a drafty crawlspace. "It's warm enough, and it's not like you're unfamiliar with modest accommodations." I thought of my penthouse overlooking the city skyline, my villa on the Amalfi Coast, even the private island I'd purchased under a shell company last summer. "The attic's fine," I said smoothly, slicing into my turkey. "I'm sure it's more comfortable than what most of my students have." Natalie's smirk widened. She loved when I reminded everyone of my tiny teaching job, proof of failure in her mind. "That's the spirit," she said sweetly, her diamond bracelet glinting under the lights. "At least you know your place." Later that night, she led me up to the attic. A rickety fold-out bed sat beneath a slanted ceiling, boxes of old holiday decorations stacked around me. The heater hummed weakly, barely pushing back the chill. "Dinner's at 7 tomorrow," she said crisply, her voice bouncing off the bare walls. "Try not to drag any dust down with you." The door shut with a hollow thud. Alone, I pulled out my phone. 3 new, urgent emails awaited my attention. Richards International was scrambling ahead of tomorrow's meeting, desperate to get word from Horizon's elusive CEO. What no one in that house realized was that elusive CEO was sitting right under their roof. My assistant's text popped up. "Mr. Richards asked again if you'll meet before tomorrow's board session." "Shall I tell him you're still abroad?" I typed back. "No. Let him think I'm still in Paris. It'll make tomorrow interesting." I slipped into warmer clothes, hiding the silk blouse beneath an oversized sweater. The cold didn't bother me as much as the memories. Years ago, while Natalie was bragging about promotions, I was pouring every ounce of myself into building Horizon from the ground up. I'd made sacrifices they could never imagine. Skipping meals, sleeping in offices, facing failure after failure until I turned it into an empire. And now, that empire owned the very company Natalie worshipped. At precisely 7 o'clock the next night, I took my place at the far end of the holiday table. Natalie beamed beside Mr. Richards, laughing too loudly at his jokes. "Claire," my father called down the table. Natalie was just telling us about her promotion. Associate Vice President of Operations. Isn't that something? I smiled politely. Congratulations, Nat. Horizon must be impressed with your work. Mr. Richards raised his glass proudly. She's one of our best. Horizon's acquisition has been a huge opportunity for talent like Natalie. The acquisition? My mother repeated, relief in her tone. We were worried when Horizon bought the firm, but it's all turned out so well, though no one seems to know who Horizon's CEO really is. Quite mysterious, isn't it? Natalie leaned forward eagerly, hungry to display her inside knowledge. Apparently she's some reclusive billionaire. Lives in Paris, maybe Tokyo. No one in management has ever met her. I lifted my wine glass to my lips, hiding my smirk. If only they knew. I heard she's brilliant, Mr. Richards added reverently. Transformed entire industries in under a decade. Built Horizon out of nothing. Or just lucky, Natalie said with a dismissive wave. Probably some spoiled trust fund baby. Can't be that impressive if she hides from everyone. Just then, Mr. Richards' phone buzzed. He stepped into the hall to take it, but his voice carried. Yes, I'll have those reports ready. No, I still haven't reached her. Yes, I know how urgent it is. I was told she's still in Paris. He returned looking pale, his earlier bravado shaken. Natalie immediately filled the silence with another tale of her achievements. I restructured operations last quarter, she bragged, stabbing her turkey. Saved the company millions. I glanced at the financial report on my phone. In reality, her changes had cost nearly $3 million. I had been watching the numbers slide for weeks, waiting for the right moment to step in. More wine, Claire? My mother offered sweetly, then added with a pointed glance. Perhaps stick to water, given your finances. Natalie giggled. Yes, teachers should really watch their spending. Mr. Richards's phone buzzed again. His face went ashen as he read. The CEO just called an emergency board meeting tomorrow at 8 a.m. All department heads must attend. Natalie froze, her fork clattering against her plate. Tomorrow? But it's Christmas. She doesn't care, Mr. Richards muttered. She's reviewing all recent restructuring. Natalie, you'll need your reports. The room fell. Quiet. Perfect timing. I cleared my throat gently. Actually, I said, she won't need them. I've already reviewed her reports. All eyes swung toward me. Natalie laughed nervously. What are you talking about? You don't even work for Horizon. I stood slowly, smoothing my plain sweater. Actually, I do. In fact, I am Horizon. Gasps rippled around the table. Mr. Richards stared as if he'd seen a ghost. You're Claire Walker, CEO of Horizon Capital? I nodded. Though most people just call me Mrs. Walker, those reports you've been trying to send me, I already have, and we do need to talk about those projections. They're off by 30 million. Natalie's face drained of color. My mother dropped her wine glass, the red seeping across the white tablecloth. This is a joke, Natalie whispered. It has to be. I pulled out my phone, projecting my digital ID onto the wall. My face, my title, my company. No joke. While you were climbing your ladder, I told her softly, I was building the building. My mother stammered. But you're a teacher. I teach one class a semester, I corrected, because I believe in education. The rest of my time is spent running one of the largest equity firms in the world. Natalie pushed back from the table, shaking her head. You live in a shoebox apartment. You drive a beat-up car. I smiled faintly. I own the building with that shoebox, and the car, it's fuel efficient, unlike your luxury vehicle, which, by the way, you've been charging to company accounts. Mr. Richards sank into his chair, no doubt recalling every dismissive remark he'd made about Horizon's mystery CEO. The attic? He muttered weakly. We put you in the attic. Yes, I said quietly. You did. But that's the thing. You were so busy judging me by appearances, you never thought to look deeper. I turned to Natalie. Remember last month when you denied Jenna from accounting time off for her father's surgery? I approved it personally. I even ensured she had the best surgeon in the country, because leadership isn't about flexing power, it's about lifting others. My father finally found his voice. Why didn't you tell us? I met his gaze steadily. Would it have mattered? Would you have respected me if I didn't fit your version of success? This family measures worth in titles and bank accounts. I wanted to create something meaningful, and I did. Chaos broke out around me. Denials, excuses, desperate scrambling. I picked up my bag. One more thing, I said at the door. I won't be sleeping in the attic tonight. I have a suite at the Grand Regent, which I own. Merry Christmas. As I drove off in my quiet hybrid, my phone buzzed with a flood of apologies, explanations, attempts to rewrite years of disdain. I ignored them all. The next morning, I sat at the head of Horizon's boardroom table. Executives filed in, including Natalie and Mr. Richards, their earlier arrogance replaced by nervous respect. I tapped the table. Before we begin, I said, we need to talk about culture, about respect, about how we treat people, no matter their title or what we think we know about them. Natalie's eyes dropped to her notepad, scribbling furiously. For the first time, she was listening. Sometimes the greatest revenge isn't humiliating the people who doubted you. It's rising so far above their judgment that it no longer matters. While they were busy looking down on me, I was building an empire. And next Christmas, I think I'll host it at my place. Let them see what true success really looks like. If this story inspired you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more powerful stories where truth triumphs over arrogance and where silence turns into strength.